Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have, of course, a great show for you today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am joined by Niall Stanage. My friend Niall, good to see you.
A delight to be back with you, Robby. How are you in these inclement conditions?
Yes, it is icy and snowy. Viewers have been hearing me complain about that for days and days and days, but we are finally getting through it.
Is your scooter off the road at the moment or not?
My scooter was stolen for
Again?
a second time
Crime
about
rates.
a month ago.
Crime rates in DC, Robby.
Crime rates in DC, but another one is being shipped to me, and as soon as our streets are clear, I will live to scoot again.
I am glad to hear it. So coming up on Rising, both former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in a House investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Plus, New York Magazine has a very critical new profile out on Congresswoman Nancy Mace. We will get into that.
Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that there's a classified whistleblower complaint against Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, but it's apparently being stalled within her agency. That's all to get to, but before we get to that, Robby, what is on your radar?
Well, ProPublica has confirmed the names of the two immigration enforcement agents who shot and killed Alex Pretti. And their identities might be surprising to many liberals who are forming their impressions about border control and ICE from Democratic talking heads on cable news. I'm speaking, of course, about progressive pundit Tiffany Cross, for one, who appeared on CNN last week and expressed confidence that one of the reasons we're seeing all of this aggressive action from ICE is that a significant number of Proud Boys, that's the far-right militia group, actually joined up with ICE. She also said a bunch of things that were obviously untrue, but let's just stick to that one. Now, nobody wants Proud Boys in law enforcement. It's a fringe, conspiracy-oriented group tied with the militia movement and, indeed, white nationalism and other unsavory elements. Indeed, the alleged white supremacy of immigration enforcement has become a major talking point for the left. Here was leftist writer Ta-Nehisi Coates making the case that Trump is building a white supremacist army in terms of the staffing of federal agencies and federal law enforcement.
I don't know that I've seen before the President of the United States attempt to build what I can only call a white supremacist army within the government, one that will outlast him. That is new, and I don't know what else to call it, given the propaganda and the recruiting. That I don't know what else what anybody else would want me to say.
For liberals, it can never just be that they disagree with a policy or think a policy is bad. The policy must also be racist to its core. White nationalist, even. Well, I've buried the lead here. Are you ready to learn the names of the white nationalist Border Patrol agents who killed Alex Pretti? Their names are, drum roll please, Jesus Ochoa and Raimundo Gutierrez. Ochoa and Gutierrez, the alleged white supremacists. Well, lest you still think these were Proud Boys who rushed to join law enforcement in recent weeks in order to heed Trump's call and work to bring fascism to the United States, note that Ochoa has been with Border Patrol since 2018 and Gutierrez since 2014, so much for that idea. Now look, I'm being contemptuous of the idea that there's always and necessarily some racist motivation, because this is the liberal media's preferred lens for attacking issues. So many in the media see Trump's stepped-up immigration enforcement as white people versus people of color. But of course, there are plenty of black and also Latino members of law enforcement, have been historically. Hispanics' views on immigration generally track the public at large. They aren't especially obsessed with keeping as many illegal immigrants in the country as possible. Even legal immigrants feel this way. Even illegal immigrants feel this way. There's a long history of in this country of the most recent migrant waves wanting to shut the door firmly behind them. Now, that doesn't mean we have to agree with this particular form of law enforcement of our immigration laws, nor should we rule that an investigation isn't necessary to determine what happened in the Pretti case. Obviously, we should investigate. Prejudging this shooting as justified because Pretti was a domestic terrorist, as so many in the administration did, I think that's absolutely wrong, as I've said so. So I was glad, and I'm firmly with him, to see Senator Rand Paul, my favorite senator, make the point that there ought to be an independent investigation and that the administration ought to answer questions about what standards they are using. Here was Paul on 60 Minutes.
I saw no evidence. I saw a man that was retreating. I mean, he went to the middle of the street. He didn't even obstruct traffic. He let a car go through. As the agents advanced on him, he retreated to the side of the street. A woman is violently pushed to the ground, and he turns to help her, and that's when he is grabbed from behind. I saw no evidence of him assaulting the police.
Paul has called for top immigration enforcement authorities to testify before his committee on their tactics and their use of force. He is skeptical, for now, that ICE needs even more funding. Recall that the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Trump administration's signature piece of legislation, found billions more of your dollars to spend on the feds. At the very least, the American people should demand to know that the money is being spent wisely on law enforcement agencies that can be trusted to get the job done while protecting our civil liberties. And that is key. Hello, Niall.
Well, I mean, let me, as we ease our way back into our reunion, begin
Yes.
with the point that I do agree with you on, which is Rand Paul. I think that Rand Paul, whether I agree with him across the board or not, is beside the point. Rand Paul does have a consistent set of beliefs and principles that he, by and large, sticks with. And I think he stuck with them there in that 60 Minutes clip that you played. And I think that's important. The reason, beyond just acknowledging that I mention it, is the point here, surely, which we need not to get distracted from, is that in the case of both Alex Pretti and Renee Good, masked agents of the government shot dead American citizens on the street. That, whether one is libertarian, liberal, or anything else, has to be a cause of outrage or, at a minimum, concern. Now, to the point about these guys' names being revealed, it is notable that those names were not revealed by the government or by any investigatory body. They were revealed by ProPublica.
Right.
I would argue that it is in the interests of all of us, as just people in this nation writ large, that if government agents shoot somebody dead, we should know their names. That seems a very low baseline to get over, which was not got over in this case. And then just finally, because obviously I want to leave you time to rebut this, but I mean, I have, for example, have never made the argument that it is racial animus in the case of Pretti or in the case of the shooting dead of Renee Good. It is, I think, the argument is about abuse of state power and that power having been used in a way that many people find abusive, there to be apparent impunity for doing so.
Well, sure, and I also object to abuses of state power. I think in the discourse, in the discussion of this, I encounter not you, but liberals who, for which issues of racial justice and racism became the only framework by which you could engage with police abuses over the last 10 or 15 years, say. I think that's been an unhelpful framing, frankly, to apply to police issues because it has estranged those of us of a libertarian inclination on the right from people on the left who would also object to these things on the basis of government should not do this to its citizens, and made it a more fraught and it gets into issues of wokeness and political correctness when it's just about race. In some cases, ignorant of the actual facts that people of color sign up to be law enforcement agents, and that the only reason, I think there's, again, not you, I'm stereotyping a specific kind of liberal who imagines that the only person who would sign up to do this kind of work is someone who harbors racial animus toward Latino people and black people, which is not the case.
Right. Well, I wish this was one of our unlimited discussions where we could have a 20-minute thing. One thing I would say is the presence of people of color in a law enforcement or immigration enforcement agency does not in itself absolve that structure of racism or racial disparity. I mean, in apartheid South Africa, there were quite a lot of black police officers. It didn't make apartheid any less racist than it actually is. So these are, I think, complicated issues in many ways.
They are complicated. But anyway, we do absolutely agree with you. No disagreement. There needs to be an investigation of these issues. It shouldn't be different rules for these law enforcement officers versus the local police. Again, Rand has made this point. So many others have. Yes, in the case of a totally justified shooting where a local police officer kills someone, there will still be an investigation every single time, virtually every single time, to determine whether that was lawful, authorized use of force. We want that as citizens. It's not a poor reflection on the police officer. It can be completely justified, but you will learn the name and it will be investigated, and we can't have a different standard for the national enforcement.
I agree with that, very much so.
Up next, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard is speaking out after a whistleblower accused her of trying to bury a whistleblower complaint. We'll be right back with that.